During a parent-teacher conference this week, Wally's mom told me that he now refers to every foreigner he sees as Teacher Emily, which is not so strange because during a trip to Vietnam, we learned from a village of Highland villagers that they referred to all foreigners they saw as Americans. So pretty much, I'm the default is the lesson here. Welcome to the podcast where I, Emily, and Peter, who is also with me, we live in China and talk about making and consuming media while we live here in China.
What we're doing.
That's what we're doing. And today we're going to talk about a couple stories. One is about visiting the Chinese clinic, and the other is about visiting Chinese parents' homes, which I did in my capacity as a teacher this week. But first, a plant update. Aren't you excited? The basil plant is as big and as bushy as ever, and I've been leaving it just outside. For a while I was taking it in, and you were helping me take it in.
Playing surrogate.
But I got lazy, and we just left it outside, and it doesn't seem to be bothered.
Just as in last night?
Or recently? A couple nights. This whole week I didn't bring it in.
It hasn't been that cold this week, though.
Well, it's not anywhere near freezing. It is below what the package says was optimal for the plant. But basil, I guess, is supposed to be pretty hardy, which is good because I am not great at growing things. Which mystery plant seems like it's dying. I never figured out what it is, and now the leaves are starting to yellow, and it stopped taking up water, which I think is a sign it's dying.
Spitting it up.
Yeah. Which is a tricky thing, so I pulled some of the dead leaves off because I think you're supposed to do that, but also it looks nicer. But the plant is so delicate that when I went in to do that, I also ended up pulling out healthy stuff. But it brings me to when do you give up on a plant? I know it's dying.
When it won't take water, I guess.
But I know that it's I don't have a place to put it. I don't actually want to throw it out because I have in mind the compost project I want to get to.
Okay.
But also I don't want to throw out dirt. I bought that dirt.
It's perfectly good dirt.
Yeah, so now I just have a dying plant hanging around.
Well,
what?
What do you do with the dying plant? Then that's
the question.
Your compost question.
Yeah.
Compost question of the day.
Which, yeah, you can put a dying plant in compost, and that is good for the compost. Mm-hmm. But I don't actually want to start the compost until the spring because it does better with warmer weather, I heard. I don't know. It's a whole new world that's very, very distracting. And I want to know the right answer, and there's not a right answer. And then the pepper plant has kind of stalled out, but it is not dying. It's just not growing. But the leaves still look pretty green and healthy. So that's what my plants are doing. And now you know. Don't give me any advice because I don't actually care.
Unless you're from Luzhou and you know what to do with the dirt or the dead plant or...
Oh yeah, if you're from Luzhou and if you know that Luzhou has a citywide composting initiative or compost drop-off...
Call right away.
I do want to know. Call in now. But so let's, I guess, kick it off with a visit to a Chinese clinic, which we've talked about before. We have an old video. Mm-hmm. I am the queen of the babies, and babies are full of germs. And when you're really sick in China, you go to the hospital. Not as an emergency situation, but just you need to get checked out by a doctor. They don't have doctor's offices or appointments in China. It's just the hospital. We have a lot of experience with the hospital. And I bought these pajamas there, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. For your regular cold and flu, you can just go to the pharmacy and they'll give you some medicine. I, for years, was taking black and whites which is what the expats recommend online. Black and whites are made by Bayer, so expats trust them. It's essentially NyQuil and DayQuil in pill form. Chinese people are horrified when I tell them I take those. They think I should not take those. Now, since last April, I've finally got up the courage to go to the actual clinic, which is a step between the pharmacy and the hospital. The pharmacy lately had been sending me away with antibiotics for anything. So now I have a huge doomsday stockpile. Don't tell anybody. But I believe in antibiotic resistance, so I haven't been taking them. Instead, I go see the doctor at the clinic, which is like a super pharmacy with benches in a back room. You wait your turn and the doctor on call comes and checks you out. It's a nice public community feel. There's usually people hanging out, taking a vapor. Which is good for sore throat or other lung ailments. Or lying down on the cot in the back. When I had to get a shot in my butt, I got to go in the back room for a little bit of privacy. But otherwise, you just like do your business out in the main room. The doctor checks you out. She makes up these little packets with pills in them that you're supposed to take at a specific time of day. It's got Chinese medicine and Western medicine in it. Whenever you take Chinese medicine, it's like 1,000 little colored pills. What's up with that? I don't know. And yeah, I don't know what the Chinese medicine does, but I don't know what 𝗖𝗵cie does either. So I'm kind of fine with that. So I've been going to this clinic for a while. So the clinic is the stage between you want a little more advice than the pharmacy just giving you whatever, and you don't actually want to go to the hospital. And again, for our non-Chinese viewers, going to the hospital is not, it's like that's just where you go to see a doctor.
And the pharmacy is like a dime a dozen. Every other store is a pharmacy.
Yeah, and I mean, I had good luck with them. If I go in with a specific medicine I want, they'd give that to me. And if I go in with some symptoms, they give me medicine that they think will go for it. But they're not doctors, they're pharmacy.
They're pharmacy.
I think they're pharmacy workers. They're not even pharmacists. There is a pharmacist. That part's like America. But I
like the back of a CVS.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure that all the women who wear coats on the floor are actually trained in pharmacy. I don't know though. To be honest, if you're from Luzhou, call in. And they're nice, and usually I'm happy with the medicine I get. But sometimes I like to go to the clinic, which mixes up a little Chinese medicine and Western medicine. And this time I went.
I bet the Chinese pharmacist with the Chinese medicine is a Chinese pharmacist with all the mushrooms and dried roots.
Yeah, I
and
would
stuff
guess
like
that because you can buy Chinese medicine at the pharmacy. I just don't. But yeah, I think that there is a person there trained in like what root does what. But yeah, so I went to our clinic, which is a couple blocks away, and they were all remodeled from the last time I was there. It's all like spacious and now like very clean, and I mean it was clean before, but everything like looks shiny and new. And
they have a new bench, waiting bench.
They do have a new bench. It's a nicer bench. The old bench was like one of those wooden rosin couches, you know. And now they have like a padded place to sit.
Which is important because it becomes a place to hang out a lot of times.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
And some people just hang out for fun, some of the old folks.
That's possible. It's a neighborhood hangout. But the thing I like best about the remodel is they've like changed the configuration, so now like the windows in the back let natural light in through the whole area. Nice. Whereas before it was kind of closed off and like kind of dark. So it's definitely much nicer and brighter.
A back of the street alley kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, now it looks like legit. I don't know. And then, I don't know, I guess they've added on a new doctor. So there was like a woman, a middle-aged, a little younger than middle-aged. I don't know. A woman who was, I would not say like a young woman, but not an old woman.
leave this woman alone.
I'm just, because a young woman sounds like she's like 25, and she's not. She's she's a doctor. They've added on a older gentleman, and he is old. He looks like he might be 100. I mean, he's probably only like 60 or 70.
Wait, so he's added on? He wasn't there before?
I've seen him there once before, but like before for all the years I've been going there, I never saw him there. So I'm not sure what the story is, because I also didn't ask. But so he like took care of me, and he I had no reason to doubt his medical competency, and I'll fully admit this is ageism. But I was like,
right here, you're gonna admit it.
You're so old, man. But the interview and the examination.
You know, he was 70. Like, what if he was like 130? And you're like,
That's true. Then maybe I do want his advice. But like he asked, I had no reason to doubt that he didn't know what he was doing. This is just me being a horrible human being.
He wasn't standing in a bucket or something.
Yeah. I mean, he asked relevant questions, and then based on those answers, follow-up questions that made sense. And this is what I do like about the clinic as opposed to the hospital, because the hospital is like 40 people are there to see the doctor in 1 hour, and the clinic is much like, okay, you're here, let's go. And so it does feel like kind of a more thorough, like I'm getting more FaceTime with the doctor, you know? And he asked like more detailed questions, so I really feel seen. But so anyway, we do the
He
interview.
was your main doctor? Just one person working on you?
Well, I mean,
like a whole staff.
That's the other thing too, is because the clinic is now 2 doctors, but the other woman was there. So she like knows me. It's not like they're consulting a chart or anything, but like at the hospital, you can schedule your time with, if you know your doctor, the doctor you like works on Thursday, it's not your doctor at the hospital. You can schedule your appointment for Thursday.
It's up to you to plan around the doctor's
so it's not like you have a GP who like knows your medical history and cares about you. I mean, the caring part might be faked anyway.
But they recognize us.
Yeah. But I think like the neighborhood clinic is like, it's kind of in an old-fashioned way, maybe old-fashioned China and old-fashioned America of like.
Well, you come from a small town. What do you know the pharmacist and the clinic walk-in, and you kind of go over a few towns.
I don't, but my parents do. Like last time I was home, they got their doctor friend, who's actually the father of someone I went to high school with. So I do know him, but like he knows our family because they all go to him as a doctor.
And your town is about as big as like our neighborhood here, so.
Yeah.
Your whole city.
The West Hampton summer population, or winter population, is like a couple thousand, I think. A couple thousand people. But
that's our apartment complex.
Yeah. But, so, got the medicine, felt better after I started taking it. But then this time I was like kind of curious about what I'm actually taking. So I looked up some of the stuff. Some of the stuff's in packets, and then some of the stuff is just like loose pills. But I haven't died yet, and that will be relevant because I found out that one of the packets I'm taking is 𝗣𝘂𝗶𝗴𝗏, which is in the U.S. was marketed as a diet pill called fen-phen. Do you remember that?
I remember the name fen-phen.
And that was like a big deal when the FDA said it wasn't safe because it causes like heart attacks. It's a stimulant that is also used to treat the flu, the cold and flu. Which I think like Sudafed is
Sudafed?
Yeah, is pseudoephedrine is chemicalized ephedrine. I don't know. But anyway, so it's a legitimate cold remedy. It's just banned in the United States. And I did feel like after I took it, like, woohoo!
Yeah.
And like, so that was Thursday I went, and then Friday afternoon, it was a long week of teaching anyway, but Friday afternoon, my manager like asked me a question.
Are you high?
No, he asked me like, do you remember, is there something like I can include in this week's video to tell the parents? And I'm like, I'm so brain dead and I don't remember anything. And I don't know how much of that was being sick, having a extra workload long week, and the uppers I've been taking. I mean, it was only for 2 days. And I think, like, thinking back now, oh, that's why they give you 2 or 3 days medicine at a time. They don't want you to, like, go home and just take this stuff for a week. They do want you to come back in, and, like, if you need more, they'll take a look at you and be like, you don't need more. This is my guess. This is all just my guess from. But as someone in our comments when I was talking about acupuncture pointed out, like, me as the average person, they didn't say it about me, they said it about themselves, but like the average person who is me, I'm not a doctor, I'm not trained in medical science, I don't know what Western medicine does. And in some cases, like, I think especially with pain relief, like, we don't know why Western drugs work the way they do. So it's not as clear cut as like scientific evidence for Western medicine versus like Chinese medicine is all just feelings.
Is it just feelings?
It's not just feelings. I don't know who's claiming that. But yeah, so that's where I'm like, I don't know how any of it works. So I'm willing to, the Chinese medicine, sometimes it makes me feel better, so I'll go with that. And I mean, it is, I guess, a little worrisome that I'm taking something that was banned in the United States. But, you know, American doctors prescribed opiates at the wrong dosage so people will get addicted.
Yeah, and leave gloves in people and sutures.
Yeah, I mean,
people make mistakes.
I don't have,
Come on.
I'm not having any surgery for anything. But yeah, so that was my pharmacy clinic experience. It's always, I mean, the doctor there is just so comforting, and
You've never really come back with any stories that it was upsetting. Like,
yeah, and I think like
at worst it seems to be that maybe nothing happened, and you're like, well, all right, you took like a fistful of pills.
Yeah.
Who knows what they were, but again, you didn't die.
I don't know what's going on, but like, I don't know what Sudafed does, and actually I can't buy Sudafed here because you can make meth out of it, so they don't sell it anymore. But yeah, so in all, I recommend my clinic. If you're in the neighborhood, I can introduce you.
Your new old clinic.
Yeah, my new old clinic with a shiny new upstairs. I didn't see upstairs, but now there is an upstairs.
And a 70-year-old downstairs.
And a 70-year-old downstairs who is a competent doctor. And now I think I am going to choose to think of him as 130 and that he's just like very good at his job.
It's like that Dr. Emilykhulme that was like a famous around the world. That
like the New York Times wrote
old.
About him. Yeah, that he's a practitioner of Chinese medicine in this tiny village. I think we
went by the office.
We thought about going to see him for something you were suffering from.
But it's like it's a tourist trap.
Yeah, and there's actually.
I mean, he's probably old and he's probably
there's
awarded,
like
but
you can find YouTube documentaries.
Yeah.
I mean, documentaries that are on YouTube, not by YouTube, about this guy, and he's very proud of having been in the New York Times.
Yeah, he's got clippings on the walls and everything.
Yeah.
But I think at this point it's more like you can kind of come in and get a picture with him. Like, you're not really.
Yeah, he has become a tourist attraction in himself.
Yeah.
So we didn't go to that doctor.
But you got your own here,
Yeah.
who is actually a real guy that can do a real job for you.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, Luzhou wins. Jiang, suck it.
our second story today is, so this week, for the first time in my teaching career in China, we've been doing parent-teacher conferences because the class I teach is kind of a new, it's a bilingual class. So they have half days instruction all in English with me, and then half days instruction all in Chinese with the Chinese teacher. And unlike, so it's a 20 child class, which is small for China. Their peers of their age group, they start to get up to 20, 30, and then 40 and then by the time you hit first grade, it might be like 40 to 60 kids. And these kids are always going to be the same 20 students. And so there is like a big deal about this kind of Western style education, bilingual, and to add to that touch, we are going to take a personal interest in your child, so we're going to have these home visits.
Like it or not.
Yeah. Home visits where like the parents and this parent-teacher conference were, similar to other places that do this. We talk about our goals for the student together and any problems and any positives. I mean, positives are what we emphasize. And again, my students are like 2.5 to 4 years old, so like it's all positives, except for the hitting and biting. That's
spitting and peeing.
Yeah. Well, and the peeing is like they're kids. They're working on that.
Oh, they're working on hitting too.
They are. That's true. We would like them to stop working on that. But I lost my page. Here we go.
Musical interlude.
Yeah. So the home visits were like, I've been in a few of our friends' homes like a couple times, but like not a lot. I haven't been to a Chinese person's home that often in our time in China.
I would say like it's strangely familiar as New Yorkers, where it's a lot of, the apartments might not be small like New York apartments. They're big inside usually, but people go out.
Yeah.
There's really, hanging out is maybe more of a family thing. Like close family.
Because I think in a lot of apartments, not all necessarily, but you have like multiple generations living together. So it's not like you're going to have a bunch of people over because like maybe grandma's taking a nap or maybe baby is also taking a nap.
Or dad is
taking a nap. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't actually gotten the opportunity to go to a Chinese person's home, but I have heard a lot about Chinese hospitality, which is
we've been to a bunch of homes, but it's usually a lot of times for a holiday.
So it's like a party is different than like
you don't just like stop by. This isn't Seinfeld. You don't just Kramer your way into everything.
But that there's like a lot of rules to Chinese hospitality.
Or at least we don't anyways. I don't know, maybe Chinese people Kramer their way into their friends' apartments.
They might.
The doors are left open all the time, so maybe.
But anyway, so there's like we've heard about, and so this is my first time to experience of like there's gonna be a lot of offering of things, and you as the guest, you're not supposed to say yes until maybe you can offer 3 times, and then you say yes. I don't know. It's complicated.
Something. I've heard 5. And it also, it's not just in the house, but I mean, gifts all around, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and like
if you're at a dinner party,
don't compliment anything in their home or they'll give it to you. And not like
unless you want it.
Like,
I mean, go for it then.
Well, yeah. And because there's an aspect of like they're supposed to provide for you, but like don't you as the guest don't take advantage of that and take all their stuff.
Yeah.
But so I had like a lot of practice of like, here, have this. Oh, no, I couldn't. And I had my Chinese co-teacher came with me. So I followed her example, but then I realized she was following my example. And there was like, oh man.
Is she much younger than you?
I don't think much. Well, I'm so old. Yeah, she might be like in her late 20s.
So just as a professional that has some years in the job, she might be going like, what does she do?
Well, I think.
I mean, she might know the tradition more than you as
I think there's again like this is so foreign to us, but it like she also can't make me look bad and I can't make her look bad. So we both do kind of have to like have match the same level. So she's like, of course she's playing the game at a super advanced level. But then she, like, I think also has this imperative to, if I do accept something, then if she doesn't accept, it makes me look bad, and she doesn't want to do that to me.
Right. You got to work as a team.
Yeah.
Like our bosses at the public school, where like, or at bosses anywhere, where you're with the boss's boss, and you have to work with your closest boss to be like, whether it's drinking games or offering games or like, you have to do this. They'll like coach you on the side of like, take this from, but don't take that. But take it this first and then that.
Because even if it's a competition, winning too much sends a message, and maybe you do want to send that message, especially I think in a business environment. Power play. But if you don't. If you're not trying to completely
hopefully you're not trying to win over parents.
Yeah.
Or win them over.
In your face. Face. But yeah, so they all had like little fruit out for us and different stuff. And then like, so I get so in my head about it. Like, if it's grapes, like that's fine. You wash some grapes, you can eat those later. But like when one family cut up a dragon fruit, like, if I don't eat it, then they have to eat like too much dragon fruit.
Or like your coworker, the other American.
Yeah.
That they made you a bunch of dumplings and.
You
were in the elevator.
They made us the grandmother is from Dongbei in the north, and so she was making like her kind of dumplings, and as we're leaving, they're like, no. Grandma made you guys some dumplings. You have to take them. You have to try them. And so try, to me, I thought like, oh, they'll bring us out. On this one, there was 3 of us. So they'll bring us out 3 dumplings. No, they brought us 3 servings of dumplings in a Tupperware container. And so we like sat outside and ate some. Cause we really did have to get going, but we also like, there's this aspect, cause the home visits are at dinner time, so everybody's like, we have to make you dinner, and we're like, don't make us dinner. One, because like that's too much work for like we're imposing on you by coming into your home, and we're having this meeting situation. But then also like, I don't want to stay at your house and eat dinner. I want to get these meetings done with so I could go home.
And you have another meeting to go to, possibly another dinner.
So we sat outside.
And you're trying to get home to go to dinner.
Yeah.
And so it's this series of niceties that are all like...
Yeah, everyone's being so polite, it's painful.
Yeah.
So we like ate the dumplings outside, some of them, and they were good.
But then the rest of them, you had too many, so on the way in the elevator... Matthews was
my coworker is like, can I finish these? I'm like, don't do that.
Got to get rid of them before you get to the next.
And then so he's like, I guess I just have to tell them my wife made these. And which like,
the next people.
Yeah.
The next apartment that you have, the next family
because
you have to go to.
We didn't want them to feel like they have to make us dumplings.
You're like Halloween going around from house to house filling up with dumplings.
I think this is in America too, but like the competition between parents, like, are you watching my child? Are you blah, blah, blah?
Sure.
So if one family, if it got out that one family made us dumplings, then everybody was going to make us dumplings, I think.
The next like 2 weeks at school, every kid is dropped off with like a thermos full of...
Yeah. Yeah, and so that part is like, that's the cultural experience of living in another culture, to see that, and then like navigating it is hard, but it is also like, okay, I'm really in it. I'm not just reading about like what it's like. And like I did notice by the end of the week, in the beginning of the week, I was successfully with no. Oh no, thank you. Oh no, thank you. And like didn't take anything. By the end of the week, I was like, oh no, okay, thank you. Especially one mom and dad, because the parents are in it together. Had a little like strawberry shortcake, and her son, my student, was slicing me a slice, and I was just like, that looks so good. I'm not even gonna say no. Griffin's already cutting the cake. Oh, thank you. And
by the end of the week, you're like expecting it of like, now you are like, that's a nice car.
Yeah. And I know I also get some leeway as the foreigner. I get to like not be so good at the rules. But that Carly, my co-teacher, she is Chinese, so she does have to kind of navigate these rules correctly. But she would not accept anything until after I had accepted it, was what I noticed was happening. And then there was one family. So the kids are like crazy that I'm in their house. They're so excited. One of the manager's daughters, Bella, she was like, even just talking about it at school, she was like, but the kids go crazy that I'm in their house. And some of them
Did they get made up? They were like any fancy clothes?
No fancy clothes, but they do like take out every toy to show me that they have. And then
what was the best toy? Just to play all the kids against each other. If you could bring home one toy and take it away.
You know who's my favorite. And he had a plush dinosaur rocking horse that had like not felted, but like you know, a quality stuffed animal.
It had a quilt inside the.
Yeah, and so it was like
rideable.
Just like a beautifully designed little dinosaur. It was adorable, and it was a rocking horse that also, if you like pull the wheels down, it could be a rider that Dad nice. Pulled around the living room. And he's just the cutest little kid. And he also gave me strawberry shortcake. You can put together who this is. But you can't, because that's a fake name and you don't know these kids.
Griffin's fine.
I named him after 𝗖𝗵cie from my brother, because I like that as a podcast.
I until recently hadn't heard Griffin as a name ever before.
I wonder if it's a millennial name? Because then you have Griffin Newman.
From Blank Check. That was the first time I actually heard. I mean, Griffin, it's a mythical beast.
Yeah.
That's a Dungeons and Dragons term that I've heard. But
all right, to get into it more, Griffin also does have like eyebrows and jowls and like a very serious face. So that like he has like a griffin face.
And he's what, like 3, 2?
He's 2 years and 10 months. He's so cute. I'm getting so off topic. I just don't say this publicly, but I said I would kidnap him, except I see how happy he is to see his mom at the end of the day, and I couldn't deny him that happiness.
If Griffin disappears and you're in Luzhou,
it was me.
Okay.
But I wouldn't kidnap him because he loves his family so much. And his family loves him. It's so beautiful.
And they all love you.
They do. Everybody, all the kids love me. And they go nuts and they show me all their toys. And then Jasper took it upon himself. Jasper is also a child, not a parent. That when my hands were empty, he would bring me another grape or bring me another seed or bring me another nut. And if I have it in my hand, I'm just going to eat it because that's what I do. Like Carly just held on to the grape, so she didn't get served any more grapes. But I
sucker.
Very astutely, if my hand was empty, I must need another grape. So he kept bringing me more food, and like I came home actually with a pocket full of seeds and nuts because I was like, I do have to stop eating these because I don't actually want them. Not that they were bad, but like before dinner time, I don't want to snack so much. I want to have dinner when I get home. So I had a pocket full of seeds, which was funny.
Nice get.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was all interesting. And then another interesting part was because I've heard a lot, and you've heard a little bit over the years of like Chinese parents are so strict.
Mm-hmm.
And then my experience at the training school was like those parents are maniacs that get like after school lessons for their kids.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised that most of the parents so far, we have another week of this, are like, well, my kid's 3. When we asked what their goals were, you know.
You're expecting like they have violin on Tuesdays.
Because when I did this with the I2 kids' parents, their parents were like, well, his pronunciation is terrible, blah, blah, blah. But like these parents seem much more realistic. My kid's 3 years old. I want them to have fun. I want them to feel like school is a safe place to be.
What's the cost range between the two? I know they're both pretty pricey.
They're both
parents.
very pricey. Our kindergarten is, I'm not sure of the exact prices. It's not a state supported kindergarten though, so it is like you have to pay to go, and then the bilingual program I think is like 4 times what the normal program is.
But I mean, like, are there families, or is one a Lexus family and the other's a, you know?
I would generalize and say that the parents at this school are also wealthy.
Right.
They all, like, a lot of them, where we met was nearby the school, and they like revealed that's their second apartments because it's convenient to the school.
Right.
But they actually live somewhere else. So like if
a lot of people
that
in
gives
town.
you like a big clue that they're not impoverished.
Right. A lot of people in this town have a second house, but like a country house. And I wonder how many of those are family houses and grandparent houses and stuff. That
Yeah.
it does feel like a lot of our students have been like,
Well, like some of our parents work in Chengdu.
oh yeah, that's
So they like live in a different city, and their child lives here with like grandma or grandpa or both, and the nanny.
yeah.
And then the parents see them, you know, on the weekends, or I don't know if some actually even commute from Luzhou, which is like a 4-hour trip.
Yeah, don't some of your kids like talk about how like they don't get to see like one of their parents all week long, or
Yeah, but I mean that's really common across all economic backgrounds in China, that the kids live with the grandparents,
Right.
and the parents at the low end of the economic spectrum, they're migrants who go out anywhere that there's work.
Yeah.
And then at this upper end of the spectrum, it's still like the opportunity of where the work is, but that they're like specialized jobs. Like I have a lot of professor parents
right.
at like universities in Chengdu.
Yeah, even at the public school with our older students, there was a lot of academic parents
Yeah.
pushing for doctors.
Yeah, but they're my parents now. It seems like their expectations are real, as opposed. There's one set of parents who were like,
Yeah, I'm just
pushing a little.
I'm wondering. Yeah, is that a money thing? Is that a generational
Well,
thing?
because
We're looking
at
at
the
like certain
training
amount
school,
of people.
those lessons were expensive too. So those were also rich parents, but
Right.
maybe they were like, I don't know what if. I guess there's a certain amount of ambition if you're taking on after school classes as opposed to just like a special program in your normal school day. Because those parents would be very pushy and be like, well, I notice his vocabulary isn't that good. You need to make his vocabulary better.
Yeah.
Because it also wasn't like about the capacity of the student. It was like, teacher, you're failing. I mean, I didn't really get that feedback that much. But that it's interesting. But I also, again, like, I was prepared to have to like make an academic plan for 3-year-olds, and no one really wanted to. And the one parents who have like slightly ambitious goals for their kid, they've kind of, in a very pragmatic and forthright way, decided their son's not that bright. Which is not the first time I've met a Chinese parent who's just like, yeah, my kid's a dummy.
Yeah. Yeah, one of our friends his younger brother was called stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
In English.
Yeah. Yeah, they go, ni hao, stupid. But so they got him like drawing lessons, which he likes drawing, just to help him like improve his focus, which I wrote as feedback on his last monthly report, and now I'm like, I'm never writing negative feedback on his monthly report again, because I did tell them we're not supposed to like, or I'm not supposed to. Carly is, as a Chinese teacher, is allowed to give a little more pushback, while still being polite. But I was like, don't push your kid too hard, or what he's going to learn is that he hates school. Especially because he's 3.
Right.
He's 3. He's 3. That's too young to be like, you're getting stuff wrong.
Well, like by difference of like our students that were high school students, to see them in the ways that they're getting pushed by their parents.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if it's just because, I mean, I guess we expected that age to be like across the board of like, yeah, you're going to have virtuoso children taking gymnastics at 3 years old or whatever.
Right,
but like
right.
The high school students that we saw were getting pushed so hard, and they were looking forward to college because everything was supposed to let up for them.
Right.
Before the big get married and then your life is over.
Then have babies and do this to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a very real mental health issue. Like, kids are literally killing themselves over school.
Yeah.
But also,
and
like,
where does that start?
Just,
not with you.
Just from a philosophical education standpoint, like, if what you learning is arduous, like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to be able to learn. And it's a self-defeating cycle. If you think learning is horrible, then you don't seek out things you're interested in learning. But if you can see like where learning is improving your life and making you a more well-rounded person, you're gonna look out for more new experiences and more
I would say I'm surprised with our experience of the students here, how not just necessarily they have to be that they are studious, but that they actually really do enjoy. I mean, there's not much else for them to do, really, especially when they get into the older kids. But that really is like once your kids are at your age getting over the fear of being at school.
Yeah.
That's like what they do. They're right.
Yeah.
They're excited to like you're saying, like teachers coming over for dinner. Woohoo!
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, at the kindergarten age, part of what's fun about kindergarten is that the kids like being there.
Right.
Whereas when I was teaching middle school, I had a frustrating time with the lower classes, but they're tracked, so it is the smart kids are the high performing kids are in these classes, and the low performing kids are in these classes.
Right.
And the low performing kids are even they're gonna drop out as soon as compulsory education is done, which is at like 14, I think.
Right. Not all of them.
Not all of them too, but some of them are like, working is better than this. And it wasn't enjoyable to teach people who didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, it's my job to make them want to be there, but I'm not Dangerous Minds. There's a limited amount of power I have in that situation. And I tried my best to make my class fun, and I do think I reached some kids, but that's not as fun as like, Teacher Emily!
But I was surprised how many more kids were interested in activity, like something like kite day. Like if I was in high school, and there was kite day, like blow it out your ass. I'm cutting that day. These kids were like totally psyched, and everyone had like, I mean, some classes were really trying hard to build their kite, and other were just kind of throwing together some pipe cleaners or something. But having a whole fun full day with an entire high school that's the size of a university, where almost everybody is totally, I mean, they're not in class, so they're excited, but like, they're actually been working for weeks on their kites and school spirit.
They don't have other things to do.
Right.
They, especially at our middle school, they lived at school. They don't have TVs. I don't think they're allowed to have their phones, or their phone use is limited. So like kite day is a break from classes.
Yeah.
And it's like, otherwise I'm sure there are a couple kids who like stay home and sleep because they are actually exhausted.
Yeah.
But that's a big.
Some of them can not sneak out, but like they jump on the bus and go back to their parents' house in the city.
Right, but they have to have permission to do that. You couldn't actually leave campus if you didn't have permission.
Yeah. You go through the guards.
But that's a big difference, I think, between Chinese and American education. And I'm basing this on my experience and also the experience of the book I read, Little Soldiers by Lenora Chu, which is really, she's a Chinese American journalist who lived in Shanghai and had her kids go to Chinese kindergarten. And in her research,
you can read the review.
Yeah. In her research, she found like,
or watch the review.
The Chinese students have a very real advantage over American students in the areas of discipline and self-motivation to study. The American kids are better at creative thinking, but the Chinese kids, like, because they go to these schools where they don't live with their parents, and they have like a dorm mother, but like it's up to them to do their homework, and they do it.
And their laundry.
Yeah, like they are given a lot of responsibility to take care of themselves, and they do. Mm-hmm. Which is impressive.
A surprising amount.
But they're also like so sad.
Yeah. I mean, they're overworked, but yeah, I look at like what they're, like when I was 15, like I got on a bus, went to school, told to go over there, read a comic book quietly behind a desk, and tried to get out of anything I could possibly do, and was easily able to get out of anything. I never had to do anything in school if I didn't want to, and I could still pass. These kids are definitely a lot more into it.
Yeah. I mean, I also was into it.
Right.
I worked pretty hard in school, but I don't know.
You also come from a tiny little school too, so.
I think, well, and that's the thing is,
you didn't have anything to do either.
This is what I mean.
Tiny towns and are just like Chinese cities.
I was gonna say I didn't have friends. I had friends, but not like, I didn't go out. I didn't like go to parties. I didn't get invited to parties and stuff. And I even know that.
Humble brag.
Yeah. I didn't really realize that like the other kids were having parties until like senior year.
Your parents just told you they all slept in coffins or something?
No.
Everyone go to their pods at 6 o'clock.
I didn't know. But I think, like, in American school, there are people like, students like me and students like you. Mm-hmm. But in Chinese school, students like you are more rare.
Yeah, exactly.
There's students like me and stricter.
Right. And I probably would have quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Would have went to work on the farm.
Yeah.
Or become a rap star.
Hopefully. There's still time.
Because we had like Mr. Super came from a country farm home with his grandparents, and he was all about working. I mean, any second that he had was tracking us down so we could practice English in his off time.
Yeah.
We definitely had students that were on the other side of like, they're not in the best classes. They're not.
Right. Well, our school is one of the best in the city, and they had.
Humble brag.
Not because of us, but that we helped. We had rich kids who could afford the full tuition, and then we had a lot of really hardworking, motivated scholarship kids.
Right.
And the scholarship kids like worked their brains off.
Right, like Curly's in Singapore from now on, I guess. Possibly the rest of his life.
Yeah, one of our students took a scholarship to go to university in Singapore, and as a condition of that scholarship, he has to work there for 10 years.
I think so. And that was a very, like, there was 10 kids a year that were chosen to go into the program, and then you had
and
to
he was like, I remember him saying, like, because he was from outside of Luzhou, But he's like, before I came to Luzhou, I had never like been to another city.
Yeah.
And then now he lives abroad.
Yeah.
And he works with an international team. So proud.
He's a young man now.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, another humble brag. So a couple of the parents speak English, but most of them don't. And actually, so the plan was that Carly and I would go together and we'd use her phone to translate. But I actually speak Chinese, so I like got put to the test of like telling these parents about their kids, and I did pretty well.
Nice.
It got tough. Again, by the end of the week when my cold was getting worse and I was taking that ephedrine.
The cold did not help.
I think I was maybe saying nonsense sometimes, which happens. And there also was like, because Carly knows me, and we have like a worked out, because I can't speak English in front of the kids. So we have worked out like a bilingual communication. She doesn't speak English either. So she talks to me in Chinese and I speak to her in English. And then when the kids aren't listening, I say a few words in Chinese too. But she knows me and we have like that like connection. But also she also like knows the classroom situation. So there were a couple times where I just, and 这不是这个不一样 blah blah blah, like that doesn't mean anything if you don't speak Chinese. It just is this, well, and this, and she like could pick up what I was referring to, and she's like, oh, I know that classroom situation, so she could like take it from there and say what was going on.
So the more, well, you when initially,
but again, so I had like a translator translating Chinese to Chinese.
When you found out you were going to go to these homes, initially you were just like, this is gonna suck. And then after a couple of days, you actually started getting this out of it, that like, not only are you getting strawberry shortcake, but that like you're getting these little like practice things that turned out to be not quite so bad. I mean, it's a pain in the butt to go to class and then have to go back.
Yeah, I mean, because I get done at 8 p.m., which is...
And that's the uncertainty of working as a teacher here. You kind of are spread across the board as needed. Yeah. So these things are surprising when they come up at the last minute, and they're annoying because they're not in your plan. Yeah. But a lot of times they do turn out to be this way of like, boy, I mean, sometimes it just totally flat out sucks that you have to like go stand in a mall as Santa. But
that I don't enjoy so much.
Yeah.
But I get to like practice / show off my Chinese. And then it is also like helpful to make these connections with the parents and like spend time with each individual kid. I would say like there's things about the bilingual teaching versus like being their not supply room teacher, but what is it called? Elective teacher, where I just come into the classroom for 20 to 40 minutes and leave. There's stuff about that's it's harder to like be on the full time that I'm at school, but it is also like I get to know these kids and they have a connection with me, and like the big thing is I get to like teach them that I don't actually like it when they come up and punch me in the butt, so I get to stop that. As opposed to the other kids who are just like, I'm so excited, Teacher Emily.
We talked a lot about the having this, going to a kid's house is kind of weird, and it seems like really antiquated. We're trying to figure out like at home, like when was the last time that was, I don't think I ever had a teacher come to my house. You're in a smaller town, maybe you did.
Not in a teaching capacity.
Yeah, but I can't really even think about time.
I think they might not even be allowed to it.
Yeah.
Different regulations.
Right. But as much as that seems like, because I was like, it sounds like something like a plot on a sitcom or something that would be some kind of trope, but like I can't even think of anything like that's even, as a silly nonsensical plot point.
Teachers coming to dinner.
Right. Boing. But the idea, idea of it being here is actually kind of like, initially is like, but then you start talking about it, you're like, oh, I get to know my students better.
Yeah. And like to see their parents as people, as opposed to like entities that everybody talks about.
Right. So it's just more...
Because appropriately, the parents are like a big force in what's going on in the child's life.
Right.
But most of the discussion is from the teaching point of view. I'm about to give up a big secret here, but it's like, oh, how annoying are the parents? Which that might be teachers all over the world.
Probably, yeah.
Because I think like teachers have their goals, parents have their goals, and sometimes they're at odds with each other. And ideally, you communicate with each other and you work out what's going to work best.
Yeah. Also, just my thought of like, it sounds weird initially, and then it doesn't actually, when you think about how much time you spend with these kids and what a community kind of feeling that it...
Well,
the stories that you're coming home with are a lot more interesting than just like, this person's an asshole and I hate that kid. Like you've got like these stories of like, I thought this about little Griffin and then I've learned this about Griffin fighting in the house, and the stories that you're getting are richer and deeper.
Yeah, and like Wally's parents showed me he also likes art, and they showed me some of the stuff he's made, and that's really cool. I mean, it's kids' art, so it is.
Right.
And it's kids' art with obvious adult intervention. But to see him be so proud of his artwork, that's not a moment I have had yet with him in class. So that's
because 20 kids are a lot of kids.
Professionally, that's a good experience. But then also on a personal level, I do feel like I know Wally a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if that's something that... It's an interesting thing because, it sounds like an antiquated idea. I keep thinking, Little House on the Prairie. That's the only time that I can think of in American history where the teacher is going to come over for dinner and sit down and say, well, your daughter's got to work on this and got to work on that. But mostly she's a good kid.
And it was also from the beginning... You and I have felt like coming over here to teach versus coming over here to work in a business, which, is not an option for us. We didn't, but I don't know, there's Time Out Beijing. We could have translated our skills to something like that.
Yeah.
In the journalism realm, because that's where our experience is. But being teachers and working with kids, even when we didn't speak Chinese so well, and you still don't speak Chinese, it gave us that entree into the community. So it did feel like we really live here and we really are appreciated and part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I gotta wonder how much of that kind of stuff would happen in the big city. If we were in Shenzhen,
I mean, I guess it depends on your school.
Your school, your neighborhood. Because I do feel like there's people that do say that there's not, you just go to class. There's a stereotype of the foreigner teacher that just goes to class, comes home, they don't pay attention, they don't be part of the community or whatever. But I mean, you continuously are fighting to leave me alone.
Yeah.
So the stuff that you have learned, both even when I was teaching at the middle school, was you get drawn into a lot more than we expected to. We thought we would just go to class for 20 minutes a couple times a day and that was it.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we're getting phone calls years later from kids across the world.
Our students are doing so well and they still keep in touch and
so sweet.
Yeah. But now we are coming on up on the hour. So all that's left to say is noodles to you.